Welcome. My name is Epi Ludwig, and I'm the founder and CEO of Crowdsource Week in Bold Words. A brief history about Crowdsource Week in Bold for some of you who are new to our platform. Crowdsource Week has been around for over 10 years now, and besides doing conferences in over 30 countries and 4 continents up until late 2019, our focus has shifted with our digital marketing services with crowdsourced platforms and solutions, staying true to our core mission by powering breakthroughs together with our partners. Bold is our annual innovation program that we launched together with our partner H-Farm back in 2018. H-Farm is one of the most unique and one of the largest innovation campus in Europe and the world. With over 33 categories, this program is better known as the Oscars for Digital Industries. You can find out more on our website at bold-awards.com and submit your project or your company for our 5th edition of Bold Awards. Just a side note, the final deadline for submission is December 31st. All right, first I'd like to thank all our speakers and all of you for joining us in this crowd session, virtual event, crowdfunding day. We do this on an annual basis. Any questions? I'll just do a little bit of housekeeping here before we get started. So any question you have, please put them in the chat section below. Clive Rafael, who is part of our team, he'll be moderating all the questions and bring them to each speaker after their presentation. Feel free to share your profiles and get some networking going. We like to give some ample time for you to connect with each other. And that's pretty much it. So let's get started. I'll have just a quick introduction in terms of what we've been doing so far with Crowdsourcing Week, some of the things that we're working on, and then I'll introduce the speakers as we go in order. So every year, the Crowdsourcing Week, we look at the themes of the year, and this year's theme has been about the crowds, collaboration, communities, connectors with the creators economy. This is true in terms of now with the tools that we have, the advancement in terms of the mindset and the opportunities that are now. Everyone is a creator. Even we've seen in the last with Twitter and now X. Starting to really power the community in terms of the creators. So there's lots of new innovation happening in this space of the creators economy. Bold, as I mentioned to you, it's an annual program. We do this at H-Farm in Venice, Italy. This is from our last edition. We had quite a participation from the ladies. And obviously, the place that we put in the H-Farm, it's very unique. It's one of the largest campuses in Europe. I always say the pictures don't do the justice. This will be our 5th edition. We will be hosting our award ceremony in Venice on March 22nd. So we are still accepting nominees for the projects and the companies to submit. So feel free to reach out or submit your project or company. All right, so let's start a little bit in terms of the how all of this started, right? So we've seen the first wave of this crowdsourced models starting with this global financial recession we had experienced in 2007, 2000 to 2009. These were the birth of the Kickstarters and Indiegogos and many other crowd-related platforms out there. And what better way for us to really bring this in a very visual part, like we kind of broke it down into 14 parts of the crowds economy, where obviously if you look at the crowdfunding plays quite a good chunk in terms of this chart, in terms of this diagram, where basically you have various forms of crowdfunding. And today's speakers will be talking about different type of crowdfunding, including some of the who have been doing crowdfunding, be on an equity side or on a reward side as well. And with this also, just so you are aware of where things are, where we are in this exponential growth when it comes to the knowledge and sharing and now the opportunity that exists today that what was in 2007 is very, very different, including knowing that now with the large language models being trained through the AI in various different platforms, we've seen now there's an opportunity for an innovation in an accelerated pace. Just to have some ideas in terms like where are we in terms of the numbers, but before that, it's very important to understand that, you know, we still have a lot of the institutions who are still very centralized, very controlling when it comes to the innovations, when it comes to the companies, and so on and so forth. If you look at these four private equity firms, basically they own 88% of the S&P's 500 companies. This tells you a lot. So there's an opportunity here with crowdfunding to decentralize this type of ownership, where we have now a majority of the opportunity going to the people and to the networks that has never been existent before. If you look at total spending in the crowdfunding in various regions from 2020 to 2023, obviously it's about 17 billion. I think this number does represent only an equity side of things in terms of crowdfunding. And you look at the Far East, China, and the North America is kind of like in the leading space. Then you have the Europe and the rest. But this number, it should be not 10x, it should be 100x. With the technology that we have today, with people who are connecting the internet. So there's a massive opportunity that I truly believe that we have not even scratched the surface when it comes to the world of crowdfunding. All right, so without taking more time, I'd like to bring the first speaker on a stage. And his name is Ian Lowe. He's the CEO of a Daxi chain, leading a groundbreaking global crowdfunding network leveraging blockchain technology. His 25 years of experience in technology led organizations across media and advertising, sustainability, and finance sectors, position him as a trusted voice in the crowdfunding landscape. Ian's pioneer work addresses scaling challenges for crowdfunding companies, and he led these first crypto wealth companies to tokenize precious metal. That's really unique, Ian. Thank you for joining. I know it's late for you in Australia. Your presentation is about equity crowdfunding and how it will transform from minnow to a major force. Let me know if you're able to share the screen, and look forward to your presentation, Ian.
Thank you, Epi. I'm just sharing now.
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm really well, actually. Now it's telling me I can't start screen share while the other participant is sharing.
I already stopped sharing, so you probably are able to share now.
Okay. I'm good now.
If not, I can share your screen. Do you mean to share the screen?
Now. Yep.
You're good.
Here we go.
All right. Fantastic. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. It's very early in the morning here, so I'm at that nexus between sort of switching from gin and tonic to coffee, but hopefully we'll get through this without any damage. I'm really excited to present a little bit of the Daxi chain story and the Daxi chain project, and I've got a small number of slides. I'll try and zoom through these pretty quickly. So, look, just to kick things off, equity crowdfunding came with a really big promise. If we rewind, let's call it 10 years ago, equity crowdfunding was really seen as the brave new world of innovation funding. On one hand, we had innovating companies, growth companies that had access to new capital, and we also were democratizing investing for everyday investors. And of course, providing a new path to funding for growth companies that came with all sorts of benefits around the way that they were able to take forward their valuation story, the nature of the deals that they're able to do with everyday investors as opposed to VCs. And it was all about making more capital available to more great companies. I think, however, if we look at the reality, equity crowdfunding today represents a lot less than 1% of the total funding that goes into early stage and what you might broadly call growth companies. And look, there's a couple of reasons for that. But really what we're saying here is that equity crowdfunding today, with all of its promise and all of its potential, which we believe in enormously, just simply hasn't reached any kind of meaningful scale as it relates to its position at the table in the innovation economy and the funding of innovation generally. And we understand that equity crowdfunding also comes with some complications. Regulations in some markets can be quite restrictive. They're very different in different markets, although there's also some commonality across jurisdictions. And so we understand that you know it's not perfect. But really, when we started to take a closer look at this lack of scale and what became possible if we could scale equity crowdfunding, it presented a really compelling picture. And so what we understand, of course, is that today, the vast majority of investment that's raised through equity crowdfunding on the vast majority of the deals that choose equity crowdfunding actually comes from the issuer's own community. It doesn't come from a crowd that's registered on a platform and ready to look at opportunities. Some of it comes from there, but it's a very small percentage. The significant majority of it actually comes from the crowd that come with the issuer. And so that presents a really interesting problem and a corresponding opportunity. And really what we're saying here is that if we can create the scale in the crowd, then that will create the scale in the deals, because obviously supply and demand have this very well understood relationship, and we can transform equity crowdfunding from a minnow to a major force. And just to put some shape around that, the way that we think about the market potential for equity crowdfunding is, and we've spent an enormous amount of time looking at this very closely. There's at least 100 million people in the world today with $5,000 a year or more to invest, conservatively. So this means that there's a potential $500 billion market that can be unleashed into equity crowdfunding. Okay, maybe not all of it, maybe just a significant percentage of it. But anyway, you look at this versus where we are today, where we can count those billions on one hand for equity crowdfunding specifically, it's a transformational shift to these sorts of numbers. And so the vision for DaxiChain is to become the world's, is for equity crowdfunding to become the world's most significant source of innovation and growth capital. We think that's entirely achievable. In fact, we think it's entirely probable, given some of the things that I'm going to talk about in the next few slides. So how do we do that? How do we go from where we are today to fulfill this enormous promise that we see in equity crowdfunding? Well, our view is that this is an industry that is absolutely perfect for a network effect. And so really what we're talking about here is, rather than having a series of crowds that all operate on separate platforms, completely independently of each other, so that every deal that's captured by that platform is only ever really exposed to the size of the crowd that exists on that same platform, almost all of which is local, a local provider with a local issuer and a local crowd, not exclusively, but largely local. Instead of that, we actually empower a network to operate whereby every deal that's captured by every participating partner in that network can be exposed to all of the crowds that participate in that network. So this is a classic network model. And this really describes DaxiChain. We've got purpose-built technology. It's infrastructure. We're not a crowdfunding platform. We are an infrastructure that allows established equity crowdfunding platforms anywhere in the world to connect with each other, to share deals. And I'll talk more about how that works in a moment. And what this does is it creates the world's first global equity crowdfunding network, and with it, it reimagines the scale of what crowdfunding can actually achieve in terms of the amount of capital that can be unlocked, but also the catalog, the global catalog of investment opportunities that can be available to everyday investors. And so we think this transforms equity crowdfunding to realize its true potential and its seat at the table as a primary source of funding for the innovation economy. So look, there's some obvious benefits to this network-based approach. This is where we can take a deal from any of the participating partners, all of them being equity crowdfunding platforms, and we can expose that deal to all of the crowds across all of the other platforms in that network. We can also harness the aggregate value of all of the deals that are being offered across the network, across multiple platforms and multiple geographies. So really what we're talking about here is an aggregate catalog that's much more attractive because it has a lot more richness and diversity in it, much more attractive for the everyday investor. We can transition platforms from being local to being local and global in the process. And this kind of scale also immediately makes new markets viable in a way that they otherwise just simply aren't. They can't operate locally and be viable, but they can operate as part of a global construct and be immediately viable. And I think what we all understand is that more investors attracts more deals, which means that more capital is being made available and more capital is being invested. So this network effect, I've got a simple example that really paints this picture. And look, we see thousands of these deals, and we've looked at a lot of them closely. And this is a classic example of the type of challenge that we see in the way that equity crowdfunding works today. Let's imagine there's a dental tech company. It's a highly specialized business. It has a truly massive market opportunity. How many investors in a crowd of, let's say, 50,000 that sit on an equity crowdfunding platform, how many of those potential investors would have sufficient knowledge or confidence to invest in a dental tech company? The answer is, in reality, a very, very small number. And so what this means is that 50,000 investors is nowhere near where we need to be, nor is 100,000, nor is 1 million. We need to find ways to leverage the network effect to get to 5 and 10 and 50 and 100 million investors so that the true potential of equity crowdfunding can be unlocked. So let me explain how Daxi Chain works. So all of the participating platforms in the Daxi Chain network are able to expose their deals to all the other platforms in the network, okay? And those deals are then exposed or available to the combined investor base across all platforms. Every participating platform is able to accept or reject any deal that comes from another platform. That's really important. There might be a deal that's competitive to an issuer that they're representing already. There could be other reasons why certain deals are not appropriate. So the ability to accept and reject deals. All of the deals that are exposed through an API framework, which every participating platform builds into. But here's the important part. This is a decentralized network model, okay? So what this means is that when deals are exposed to the network, those deals are then displayed to the combined crowd of the network through the participating platforms themselves. Daxi Chain is totally invisible, okay, as it relates to the investor. They never see us. They may never know that we exist, okay? All of the deals that are exposed through and to the network are ultimately displayed to investors on the platforms that participate in the network itself, okay? So these platforms go from a local catalog to a local plus a global catalog, and it's all in their same platform and it's exposed to their same crowd, and that's happening across all of the platforms in the network. So what this means is that any investment participation is secured locally on each of the participating platforms. Daxi Chain's not involved in any of that, okay? Our job is to be entirely non-disruptive. We are an enabler. We are an infrastructure, okay? And this decentralized network model means that each of the participating platforms are free to grow their business, compete for the business of issuers, grow their own crowd. They always own their own crowd, and they own the way that they communicate to that crowd. None of that should change. This is really just about enabling scale. Now, the way that the model works is that we don't charge fees, access fees, API fees, setup fees, joining fees. There's no fees associated with getting involved in the network. We simply share in the success fee. And the way that that works is the following. So if a platform representing a deal raises capital from its own crowd, then clearly they should take 100% of that success fee on that particular capital. If additional or incremental capital is raised from other platforms on the network, then the platform that represents the issuer will take 50% of their normal success fee on that incremental capital. And the platforms that actually contributed that investment or that capital would take 35% of the success fee. And Daxi Chains takes the remaining 15%. So it's purely success fee based. What this is doing is it's giving additional capital, making additional capital available to all of the participating platforms. They still take 50% of their normal success fee. But for any platforms that where their crowd contribute investment, they're opening up a new revenue stream that doesn't exist today. Okay. And in the process, by exposing more deals into their catalog, they're making their platform more attractive. More investors are participating and they're attracting new investors as well. And I just want to make the point again, every participating platform always own their own crowd. They always own their own deals and they're in total control of their own platform. So this is not hotels.com. Okay. This is simply a mechanism through which platforms can connect and distribute through each other and benefit from the scale of operating collectively as a network. There's a really important blockchain ingredient to the Daxi chain network. And so it comes in really sort of two manifestations. The first is that when we started to look at this business operating at scale, let's imagine 50 countries, 30 currencies, you look at all of the currency pairings when it comes to moving investment money around the world from one platform to another, one currency to another, and it quickly becomes really problematic. And so when we look at banking rails today, they're just simply not capable of doing what needs to be done for this model to operate efficiently. They're far too slow, far too expensive. So blockchain, however, is a purpose-built technology. It's decentralized to manage the transfer of value almost instantly and almost literally for free. And so we use blockchain rails, and we've actually constructed, launched, and listed our own cryptocurrency for the purposes of managing the transfer of those investment funds from one platform in one currency to another platform in another currency. And we can do that really quickly and really cheaply as a result of utilizing the benefits of blockchain. Blockchain has an additional role to play, not at this stage of our development, but in the near future, where we will start to offer the option to tokenize the equity that's being issued by the issuer in the capital raising process. That has all sorts of benefits associated with liquidity. I think those benefits would be well understood by most people. It also has some complexity associated with it, particularly while regulatory frameworks are still evolving. But that is a clear direction of travel for Daxi Chain, and we will offer that as an option in the near future. So blockchain, Web 3.0, it has a really important role to play in the overall Daxi Chain proposition. Our technology stack, really quickly, there's four really sort of key components, if you like. An application layer that has all of the functionality, if you like, manages the deal workflow, reporting and things of this nature. The transaction layer, where we actually capture and move, or we provide the tools, I should say, for our partners to move investment money from one platform to another. The API framework, which is the connective tissue, and then the blockchain layer. Three of those four layers have already been launched and are live in market, and the blockchain layer will do a private first release of that in 2024. So, a lot of work's been done. We're well progressed. And as we sit here today, we have foundation partners. We'll shortly be pushing the go fast button on signing partners all around the world. And we've had a number of discussions with equity crowdfunding platforms all around the world. But really our view of the future is that equity crowdfunding still is that brave new world of innovation funding. And the substance of the opportunity for equity crowdfunding is yet to be realized. Scale is both the challenge and this enormous opportunity that we've identified. And really our view is that our opportunity is to create the world's first global equity crowdfunding network, and we think that that will transform equity crowdfunding into the world's largest source of innovation and growth capital.
Great. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate this is a great presentation. Clive, do we have any question for Ian?
Hi everyone. Hello, Ian. Great presentation there. I think it stunned people into silence, taking in the implications of what you've been saying. But for my own part, I'm wondering, have you had many discussions with equity crowdfunding platforms about your plans on this?
We have. So stage one, we deliberately just wanted to target a small number and work really closely with a small number of foundation partners. And so we've been doing that for a while now. We've got to the point now where the technology's launched, partners are integrated, first deals are starting to flow. And so now we know that, you know, what we've built works in the way that we intended it to. We're going to much more aggressively target growing that network. And so we've got some very clear objectives for next year. But all through this year and even prior to that, we had conversations with equity crowdfunding companies all around the world. I met with a whole bunch of really great equity crowdfunding platform providers. And I think when you sit down, you start to pull this apart and talk about how it works. And there are obvious questions out of these platforms around, well, how do you manage against regulatory frameworks? And we have answers for all of those very good questions. When you start to unpack it and talk about how it works, people realize it actually just makes enormous sense. And when you think that any capital that comes out of this network is 100% incremental to what you would have otherwise had access to, it's a win for the issuer, it's a win for the platform that represents them, and it's a win for the crowd who can now have access to a vastly expanded catalog of investment opportunities.
It's great. Ian, I know it's late on your side, and also we're late on our side too. But truly appreciate your participation and your sharing your innovation that you're working with the Daxi chain. Looking forward to our next conversation, perhaps in Crowdfunding Day or the next events that we do. And now we're moving to the next speaker. And next speaker is the Dan Noves. He's the co-founder and CEO of Mode Mobile. He's responsible for setting the vision and direction for the company, leading and inspiring a team of executives, managers, develop and executing strategic plans to represent the organization to stakeholders and public. I first came across the Mode Mobile when they were running the equity crowdfunding campaign just about a month ago or so. I found Mode Mobile very interesting company and innovation in terms of mobile phones, and he's going to cover today about their quest to 1 million shareholders. Dan, thank you for joining us. And I know you have a hard stop, so we'll go through it because we run a bit late today. So thank you for joining us. Can you hear us, Dan?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me now? Sorry, I was having an audio issue with my computer. Okay, cool. All right, so I have, and you can see the presentation, okay, or no?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, so I have about 12 minutes, so I will speed through this pretty quickly and try and leave at least a few minutes for shares. So yeah, background on the company, and would love to give ideas here as to why we chose crowdfunding. It was beyond just raising capital, at least for our business, and we took a very unique twist on how we involved our community into it. So high level on our company, we are makers of Mode Earn Phone. We essentially focus on budget conscious people around the world that tend to have a bit more time on their hands than they necessarily have money. In fact, right now, the average American has about 56% of them only have about $1,000 in their savings account, and 6.8 billion people make less than $12,000 a year. Independent though of these stats, everyone has a smartphone. And so we look at the smartphone as a new place that we can basically unlock a new type of asset class for 7 billion consumers. And that's what we do here at Mode. We created software that is responsible of creating the first Earn Phone. And so Earn Phone is today sold at stores like Walmart, Best Buy, Amazon here in the United States. But we also built one of the largest apps in the entire world that uses our Earn OS, which is essentially our earning operating system. And so you're probably thinking, how do you get rewarded for using your phone? And essentially, there's essentially 16 things that people tend to do on their phone. So it's things like listening to music or playing games or shopping, banking, etc. And we try and tap into every little component in your life and try and align value and savings and earning capabilities with advertisers and you alike. And so thus far, we've been, running this business. We started launching the software in 2019. And we've had over 40 million people from around the world utilize our service. And we have helped facilitate over $150 million in earnings and savings back to consumers across 170 countries. As mentioned, there are 3 ways to use our service. Either you download it through the Play Store, you buy one of our devices, and now we're starting to license this device to other OEMs, because what our vision is really to create Earn Phone as a category. So if you're familiar with the company Roku, how they power smart TVs for television makers, that is kind of where we want to go with it. Why did we choose crowdfunding? So we felt that Earn Phone was an idea that we wanted to put out there and have people get familiarized with it, right? No one that we know had actually created this type of business model. And so we wanted to market that, and we saw that crowdfunding was a really good opportunity. And we know that there's a lot of consumers that would believe what we believed. But the second component that we thought was really interesting is, we have these millions of consumers from around the world, and they're earning points in our system, and they can take those points and they can redeem them for gift cards, they can redeem them for cash, they can redeem them for crypto, they can redeem them for products. And we're like, what if we allowed them to redeem them for shares in our company too? And so that was kind of what got me into the whole crowdfunding idea, where I was like, that's how I could align value and build community for our user base. And so here's an example of kind of what you would see on our screen, where someone has like their earning rate, they have the amount of points that they're earning, and then they could redeem for these various different items that I mentioned. This is a card that we have in our item box that essentially allows someone to take 100 points in Mode, which essentially you can get very quickly, and they can redeem $15 worth of shares into the company. And so what we found is we started launching this in the summer. It was our first ever crowdfund, but we were able to amass 15,000 shareholders very quickly, just through this mechanic. And so, our goal, as Epi mentioned, is to basically be the first private company that can get to 1 million shareholders, because we can take consumers from around the world, and even if they don't have the minimums that we require in our main crowdfund, they could still be a part of the company. And after COVID, what we saw is that everyone became an investor because of fractionalized investing, and you can invest as little as $1. So it was a much more common language. And so it's kind of like a perfect time to be able to take advantage of these, Reg CF, Reg A plus, and so on. And so thus far, there's really 3 ways that we intend to get to this number. First, people can just invest like they normally would in any crowdfund. And we've had thousands of investors take us up on that. They can become a user of our product and just redeem their points for shares, or they can become a member to our subscription service, which they earn even more benefits and even more shares that they can claim. So we kind of have a 3-fold plan here, and it's really tied into all of our unit economics and how we think about our business. So thus far, we've had a tremendous amount of early traction with that crowdfund. We in fact raised about 4% of all Reg CF dollars invested in the entire industry, as reported by King Crowd, in August, and had very similar stats in September. We are on track to close our first $5 million Reg CF in November, after really starting to market this in July ish. So that is what I have. So happy to answer any questions, and we have about 5 minutes left. If
that's great. Yeah, Clive, do we have any questions from the audience, or you have any questions for Dan before he has to leave? Clive, you there? Can hear Clive. Okay, well, so I'll so then in terms of what's the regulatory procedure for people who are coming in terms of the as a shareholder without investing their money in terms of the your equity crowdfunding? Are you mixing this together right now, or are you making this available for next run?
No, we've done it as part of the CF. So you have to treat the CF and the Reg A Plus differently. We outline it in our CFs, and we allocated a certain amount of shares that users could claim. So when we did just the reviewed CFs, so the first 1.235, we spaced out about $125,000 worth of shares that, it was kind of first come, first serve. On the second CF, we did a much larger sum, and it really was in preparation for our A. Because in the CF, you basically kind of have to give the shares away for them being just a user. Whereas the A plus, the way that the SEC treats it, it's basically we have to actually peg a value to the shares and to the points. So say that like 1,000 points, we have to be like, hey, that's worth $1, and then someone could redeem it in there because of the there's no like share limit on a CF. There's only a dollar limit, but dollars, it's based on the total amount of shares. So independent of like an example of this is if you did a $37.5 million in cash raise, and then you happen to offer investors 100% bonus, technically you'd be raising $75 million in the eyes of the SEC. And so essentially you'd only bring in 37.5 million in cash. And so we have to think about treat this in a very similar way where like the points are consideration, but they are a part of the offering. We put them in the Form C, and we're putting it into the Form A. And, that's kind of part of how we've been able to get so many shareholders alongside just, the broader marketing campaigns that we do. Yeah.
How much of that brand value a crowdfunding brought you on this campaign? Do you have some measures in here? You mentioned that was one of the main reasons why you wanted to do the crowdfunding.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I actually, I don't think every business is going to have the issue I have, but if you think about kind of like what we focus on a specific niche in the market, or not necessarily a niche, but like a specific type of consumer, right? Like our average user is like sub $100,000 income. But what we found is like, hey, there is a lot of consumers that are decision makers that may not know our brand, right? And even though we were spending, millions of dollars in advertising, like these decision makers in certain companies may not see our brand. And so what we were thinking is like, okay, what we've noticed is that ever since we started marketing the crowdfund in other types of trade publications, stock trading publications, etc., we've started seeing a lot more inbound from just like other types of people that are seeing our brand over and over again. So it's kind of like you're getting to market that, and now we're hitting a totally different segment of audience, which is a much more higher income audience, usually a more affluent decision maker audience. In addition to who our consumer is, which is more of a budget conscious audience, but they're different customers. And so that's kind of like how I'm thinking about it. It's almost like two different types of like segmentations of how we think about it. And the benefit is that we're still able to raise money and bring in users. So it's not like usually this is a very costly endeavor, but for us, it's like, cost, but with purpose. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that we've been able to really unlock with kind of generating awareness, revenue, and also investments.
Dan, this is great. Congratulations. This is really awesome. One of my partner invested in your company too as well, and I'm also going to do that as well. So really looking forward to it. And thank you. And I know you have to run, so looking forward to reconnecting again. Next, we'll take next speaker. His name is Stormer Santana. He's the Director of Sales at Dalmore Group, one of the top brokers dealers of Reg A plus offerings with an extensive background in institutional asset management and crowdfunding. Stormer has helped hundreds of issuers navigating fundraising opportunities. His presentation today is going to be about fractional investing on iOS. Stormer, I see you here. Are you able to share those slides with us?
Yeah, not a problem here. Let me just pull up the presentation.
Fantastic.
Okay, just give me 1 second here. So I'm not able to share while someone else is sharing, it looks like.
We can see your emails, that's for sure.
That's not mine.
Oh, that's
Not
not
my
you.
screen. It might be
Okay, so
Dan.
maybe Dan, yeah, probably you can stop sharing. Okay.
Hey Dan, I think you're still sharing your screen.
Maybe I can take Dan out for now. And that way you can. Okay, can you try now? Since
Sure.
I had to remove him, sorry about that.
No problem.
Can you share the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Awesome, welcome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so as mentioned, my name is Stormer Santana. I'm the Director of Sales here at Dalmore. So the intent for the conversation today is to walk through what Dalmore accomplishes with issuers, how we support capital raise, but ultimately dive into fractional investing, specifically on iOS and mobile. So as a bit of background, Dalmore is an 18-year-old broker-dealer. We've had a real interjection into the crowdfunding landscape in 2014 with the Jobs Act. So as per King's Crowd last year, accomplished about 58% of all Reg As in the marketplace. So, really high involvement specifically in Reg A, but how we support issuers is both Reg CF, Reg A plus, and then for some issuers that are doing concurrent offerings with Reg D, definitely capable on that front. The idea of the business is to be a very modular approach to raising capital. So you have the platform model where there's investors, there's the marketing support, there's the graphic design support. At Dalmore, we've designed this to be very modular in the sense that we have the broker-dealer component supporting regulation, compliance, KYC, and then we have the technology arm. So our technology is fully white labeled, allowing issuers to have an invest button on their website, branded and consistent with the company. So the only mention of Dalmore will be in the disclosures. And the idea is that you're raising capital on your own website. Your marketing dollars are coming to your own website, and you're ultimately controlling the journey of your capital raising efforts. And so we have a lot of different use cases for this. Of course, there's traditional capital raising like Reg CF and Reg A plus, where it might be a common stock issuer, a common stock offering for a $5 million raise. And then we have some really unique scenarios on the fractional side where issuers may be fractionalizing collectibles or real estate assets or issuing some form of bond or dividend. So we can be really creative with how we're leveraging these different exemptions. Our track record and our support level has been to the tune of 1,000 companies launched, over $1 billion raised for our issuers, and 1 million investments across all of our different issuers. And tying back to that modularity of our platform, we've designed it to be extremely frictionless. So when someone's clicking that invest button to make a transaction, they're creating an account, they're entering payment information, they're going through instant KYC, AML verification, and they're signing subscription documents in about 45 seconds. We have full Stripe integration, so it's really more of an e-commerce experience than it is an investment banking experience. To circle back on the theme of this conversation, 80% of transactions today are happening on mobile phones. And so what we've done is try to be really creative and strategic about tailoring the investment funnel, the investment flow for that audience. Now, one of our products, be it Dalmore Direct, this would be designed for a one-time offering. So maybe you're raising a Reg CF or Reg A plus campaign and just sourcing funds for 4 to 6 months. That would be Dalmore Direct. But with Dalmore Fraction, we've designed a fully white labeled mobile app. And this is a really, really exciting component to our tech infrastructure. And so the concept being, you might be a series offering or a series issuer. You may have a portfolio of maybe $50 million in real estate, and you're looking to break up some of that equity and offer it to the crowd in a fractional way. We see a lot of conversations happening right now, just given the high interest rate environment that we're in, where real estate issuers are looking for lower cost of capital so that they can continue to scale, be strategic, deploy dollars, and ultimately build their portfolio. with the idea that then they're going to issue a dividend or some form of yield for their investors. And so Dalmore Fraction, fully white labeled mobile app, you as the issuer, you're going to be owning this on the iOS store. So they're your reviews, you're able to drive your marketing dollars and your activity to your own mobile app, with the idea that this is ultimately going to build community and create an environment for you to continue putting offerings out there, to continue to raise capital through Regulation A+ or D, while dripping on your customers, providing them updates on the asset, and ultimately giving them a landscape for them to feel comfortable, providing their social security number and their accreditation status going through the process. So what's really unique about Dalmore is we're heavily involved in the crowdfunding space. Even though investors may not necessarily be familiar, we try to be that infrastructure and plumbing resource for issuers so that they can design an overall offering that's long term. So maybe it's one raise today in a CF, but the long-term plan is to raise $25–50 million through Reg A, and then ultimately scale into a fully white label mobile product. So this is a theme that we're seeing, across the board, that issuers are starting to gravitate to. And I keep highlighting real estate, but I think it's very applicable for the fractional landscape, just given the world that we're in, where the cost of living is extremely high, the access to affordable housing is extremely high with a huge barrier. We have a lot of issuers now looking at the crowd as a way of capital, providing, but also the ability to issue a yield. And so, offering your multifamily portfolio to a crowd of investors so that you can continue to scale your business, build some brand recognition. And then all of our technology has been built with the marketing lens. So our tech team actually comes from an extensive capital raising background for issuers. And with that marketing lens, we've built a very strong dashboard for our issuers. So as you're raising capital, as you're deploying funds, you have CRM integration, you have abandoned cart technology, you have a heat map of your investors, and you could really track that funnel all the way down to that click and that subscription document signing. And then in the perfect scenario, you bring in thousands of investors. This is your community. These are who are going to be beta testing your future product rollout. And a lot of our issuers are leaning on their customers and ultimately their stakeholders to test future product rollout, to test, A/B testing, and really lean on these stakeholders, of course, for the capital proceeds, but also some strategic direction as well. And so that's how we positioned ourselves, to be a very flexible, very modular platform for issuers. I think the crowdfunding platform model makes sense for certain companies, but not for everyone, especially on the yield sensitive side. And so that's really how we've designed the business, and our involvement with issuers is to be obsessed with frictionless technology, allowing customers and our issuers to raise capital from the crowd, and position themselves with a product that works day one, is data backed, and has that marketing component to it as well. So I know that's a lot of information. I'll pause there and just see if there's any initial questions.
All right, great. So, Clive, do you have any questions for Stormer?
No, nothing has come through. But I was very interested in there's the screen that you're showing now. This is businesses and organisations that are offering some fractionalized ownership. But for the people who've already got assets, you were talking about real estate owners. Is it more a case that you're providing them with opportunities to build their own secondary market as opposed to an initial crowdfunding offer?
It could be a combination of both. So the typical path would be that primary issuance of that asset. So you may have that multifamily, you want to open up some equity, offer it to the crowd. Under Regulation A+, those shares are tradable instantly. And so with that instant liquidity ability, we do have ATS integrations. So we can connect to a secondary market and start opening up some liquidity options for these investors. The end, and I think the long-term vision that most in the space have, is that there's going to ultimately be institutional involvement in the near future, especially with these large asset class issuers like real estate. There's a strong appetite from institutions, and that's something that we're starting to think about. So the ability to have a fund administrative component to your raise, and then start tying in ATS liquidity options, and then maybe even bringing in institutional capital. definitely something that's on the roadmap and an avenue that we're pursuing.
Great.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Stormer. Appreciate your time, and look forward to reconnect again for hopefully next virtual event. We do it here at Crowdsourcing Week. Next, we have
Thanks so much.
Gary Poirier, is the founder and CEO of AngelLink, the world's first social crowdfunding platform powered by women. A visionary thought leader, champion of female empowerment and financial equity with over 2 decades of finance and fintech experience. Gary is a catalyst for positive impact with passion for advancing women in financial equity and inclusion. Gary is a member of a Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women, a Women in Technology Association, the Female Founders Collective National Association of Women Business Owners. Her presentation today is about be bold, which is my motto here, and harness your power to bring your business dreams to life. Gary, let me know if you're able to share your screen, and also you can turn your video on and mute yourself. So looking forward. I'll ask you to start your video here and to unmute as well.
Hi.
Hi, Gary. How are you?
See you.
Good seeing you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. And did you say, because you were breaking up, do you want me to share or are you going to share?
You can share your screen.
Oh, fantastic.
That's
Okay,
good.
hang on 1 second. Let me pull it up. Okay, can you see it now?
We can see it.
Okay, and I'm just going to move this down here and I'm going to do this. Okay, how is that?
Perfect. You can just do it. You put on present. Okay, perfect.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Epi, for having me today. I'm really thrilled to be here and shine a light on women in crowdfunding and what a great opportunity it is to bring your community together to raise money for kind of whatever your dreams are to make a reality. So the title of the presentation is Be Bold and Harness Your Power to Bring Your Business Dreams to Life. AngelLink is the world's first crowdfunding platform powered by women, built by women, but open to all. So we are a women-led social crowdfunding platform, creating the largest digital donor community powered by women in the world to save and to support millions of lives. And we are in the donation space, similar to companies you might know in donations such as GoFundMe. We built this company because 70% of the organizers are women in the industry, and 70% of the donors are women in the crowdfunding individual peer-to-peer space. So the topic I wanted to talk to you guys about today is really the 6 traits I think are most important to bring a bold new idea to life. And breaking them down, number 1 is leadership. It's really important to, I think, hone your skills on leadership to build a company and to create crowdfunding solutions that work. Innovation is absolutely critical to bring new ideas to life. Tenacity, never to give up. Creativity, because there's a tremendous amount of opportunity, I think, with new technologies to bring those into your crowdfunding platform. And self-awareness of your own skills as a leader and as a CEO to manage your business. The last one, which I know very well, and I'm sure a lot of early stage founders do, which is embracing failure and not being afraid of failing, because every single person who's successful in life will really wear their failures like a badge of honor, because that failure opens the door to the next success. And my personal focus too, which I think is very important, is really the why behind your business and creating and bringing your own life story, your own personal passion to the product or the project you're working on, and making an important social impact in the world. So starting off on leadership is really leading with conviction. And confidence. You might not always be right, but at least you have a vision and a path forward, and creating that leadership really from the top down and also from the bottom up is very important. Inspiring others. There's several really great quotes, but the gist of it is if you, the real true measure of a leader is how many people are following them and how many people are being inspired by that vision. So making bold decisions in the face of uncertainty. There is no crystal ball in business. And I think it's critically important to be able to make tough decisions and quickly identify issues and embrace new directions as you need to. Willingness to take risks, setting a tone for the team. The culture needs to be forefront in terms of that shared mission. And then really always rewarding innovation, creativity, and excellence throughout the team. That's one of the hallmarks of the first trait of leadership. Second is innovation. Good leaders always challenge the status quo. You find new and better ways to solve problems. Again, embracing failure, not as something that didn't work, but understanding what is the next path forward as a stepping stone for success for the next innovation that's about to come. Empowering your team to contribute ideas. We have, for example, at AngelLink, a virtual town hall meeting every Wednesday at 12 o'clock. We invite everybody on the team, no matter what their position, to join us, to cameras on, whether they're all anywhere around the world. We have a special unique open forum where we can hear concerns, shout outs and wins from our team. It's really important, I think, in terms of creating that innovative culture and inviting your own team to give their feedback on attributes and successes and things we can do better. Empowering the team to contribute the ideas. And then really celebrating and igniting change and driving progress. All of that is really important within the innovation. Number 3 is tenacity. Definitely stepping out of your comfort zone, persevering in the face of adversity. And all of that really needs to be brought down to the mechanics of an action plan and a go-to-market strategy. And I think a lot of companies fail to create those milestones, whereas holding each person accountable in your team, especially in more of a remote environment these days as a technology company, I would argue the vast majority of the tech teams would be remote, pretty much distributed around the world, and creating milestones and weekly charts for again, capturing successes and wins and losses is really important. And I always say that I'm an empowerment coach for my own team, trying to raise my own team to their individual highest potential as individuals. And I think that builds a strong culture. And then learning to communicate at all levels within your organization. I've learned that not only communicating with the team, but your partners all the way down to your smallest customer, making customers happy, listening to their concerns and ideas is very important. We have a loop within AngelLink where we ask for customer feedback. We also incentivize our customers to give us feedback, both positive and negative. And then also at the board level with investors is really learning how to communicate well is part of what I consider the most important attributes of tenacity. Next one is creativity. Creativity, we all know, really does fuel innovation, and it brings those ideas to life. The ability to connect seemingly unrelated comments and concepts is important in terms of creativity because it can bring out new ideas in how to solve complex problems. And our goal at AngelLink is always to develop the most elegant solution we can to bring down those complex problems into unique, more actionable plans to create an elegant solution that is the composite of all those plans. And I've learned also to trust my instincts. I think that understanding who your audience is, understanding who your customer is, understanding the technology, and we might not have all the answers. In fact, none of us do, but trusting your instinct, making I think some listening to your gut is always, in my opinion, something that you should not ignore. Within our team, we always have a willingness to try, to test, to pilot, and then to quickly pivot, to lean into the things that are working and try to quickly stop things that aren't working. We need to adapt quickly and self-correct when we hit obstacles or we encounter challenges. Those, to me, are the most important aspects of creativity. Next is self-awareness. And I think for all of us as entrepreneurs, living up to your full potential is our goal, but unleashing your kind of inner strength, the inner power, I think some women might understand that and maybe speak that with an authentic voice. And I've heard from my relationships and contacts with other women leaders that kind of unleashing that inner strength is something we all are striving to do across our companies. Taking time to reflect on our strengths, our passions, and our values, understanding our successes and weaknesses, and making sure we listen to and do a real self-assessment of what we can do, what we're good at, understanding what drives us, and making sure we are hiring others that fill in those skill sets that we might not have. You know, if you're very strong in technology, you need to find someone equally strong in finance and operations. And same thing, if you find someone good with finance and operations, we better have a very, very strong customer support and operations leader to really engage with users and clients. Embracing, I think, your own uniqueness as a founder, forming the foundation of your personal power and growth, and gaining valuable insights. And again, that communication loop with your own team, advocates, customers, clients, partners, really gaining their insight, I think, is something very, very important to self-awareness and building your own personal inner strength. And then supporting, you know, the team and actually connecting with our customers to create brand advocates and brand builders within our own customer base, within our own partners, and within our team members is something we think is very important in closing the loop on the ecosystem of the company we're building. Next one is a personal favorite, embracing failure. I have learned throughout my career that every time you fall down, it's the winners that can get back up, dust themselves off, and really it's if you have the mentality that failure is a necessary part of the journey. And if you look, you know, talk to any of the top leaders, some of my favorite, Richard Branson with Virgin, or Bill Gates, or Sheryl Sandberg with Facebook, you know, they actually lead half the time with the failures they've made and the failures that they've overcome. And that becomes the story of all humanity, the story that we can all connect with. And it's really part of the journey. And to actually be proud of the failures you've overcome is something I'm learning to do. And I would encourage others as part of your dialogue in your journey of building your brand to actually embrace the failures and speak about them openly. And I think there, you know, if you never take risks, you'll certainly never become an entrepreneur. Failure should not define you. It can shape who you are and shape, more importantly, who you will become, be able to overcome obstacles faster. And that is the kind of the hidden gem behind the failure, the silver lining behind failures. And that let failures, you know, create and pave the way for future success. To me, those are the most important things in overcoming failure is really looking at the horizon in the future. And then I think last, in terms of building a brand, being bold, bringing your vision to life in crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, is really sharing your own story with the world and really feeling comfortable by getting out in front yourself as a founder, as an operator, as a technologist, as a leader. And these are just some of the things we've done with, you know, on television. We've worked with United Nations. We've worked with Goldman Sachs, 10,000 Women, with ABC, NBC, Fox, etc. And actually feeling comfortable, even though this might not be your comfort zone, is something that I really always advise other CEOs to embrace, because there's no one better at telling your story than you, the founder.
Fantastic. Gary, thank you.
That is my presentation, Epi, for today.
Yeah, well, you're very courageous woman, and you're doing a great work in the area of crowdfunding and empowering people and connecting the dots, especially people in need. I think this is very, very important. Clive, do we have any questions for Gary?
I've got a question. Certainly. Hi, Gary. Great
Hi,
presentation. Thank you.
thank you so much.
There's a growing bank of research showing that female business founders find it more difficult to raise funds. That the system is inherently biased towards men. So, how can Angel Link as a donations platform help them, female
Well,
business
that's
founders?
a fantastic question, Clive, and I'm very glad you asked it because I started this company because I've had 25 years experience in finance, and I have been the only woman in the room for decades. And you're absolutely right. The numbers don't lie. Women get 3% of venture capital to start their business in the United States, and it's worse in other countries. So when you think about it, 97% of all funds are going to go to men. So one of the reasons I started, one of the biggest whys I started Angel Link is I could see a tremendous problem with women accessing capital across the economic spectrum. Number one, in humanity, to help your family, which is our core space, which is raising money for emergencies or medical expenses or other things that you might have in your everyday life. As a woman, you have economic challenges there. And then in addition, on Angel Link, you absolutely can start a fundraiser to raise money to start a business or to fund your existing business. And we believe the most important aspect that is the most underserved of within this area is first money in. Before you have a business plan, before you know what a cap table is, before you have any outside investors, the best thing to do is coalesce your own community, your friends, your family. And we use, probably better than most, social media. And the world is becoming mobile, as you know, and the way to raise money, and I use the example, let's say you want to start a bakery. You want to start a bakery in Australia or New Zealand or in the United States. With Angel Link right now, you can raise your first $5,000, $3,000, $20,000 on Angel Link to start the bakery. You need a commercial oven. You might need some space. You need to hire a few people. You need some inventory. In the United States, if you don't have a rich uncle and to start a bakery, you're going to have a very difficult time getting a loan. So the best way is to come to a platform like Angel Link, go out and get your own friends and family, your uncle, your brother, your cousin, your neighbor, to say, you know what, we really want that bakery to open up in our neighborhood, and we're excited about it. And so also the win there is that, you could go out and buy that commercial oven and start the bakery and raise your first several $1,000s. And you've already told everyone in your community that you're opening next month. So what I really think is the beauty of crowdfunding is taking these small communities, amplifying them on social media. On Angel Link, we did direct links to all social media: TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, WhatsApp. So, you're a woman or a man and you want to start that bakery, you have now told your entire customers that you're coming to that little town and that you're opening a bakery. And Clive, it's so important because the number of women that will ever be sitting in front of a venture capital person or team is probably less than 1% of the whole population of any country. So who is helping them? Who is helping the little the dressmaker, the little bakery owner in every country, right? Where do they go when they need money immediately? So Angel Link is, we think, solving humanity's biggest problems, whether it is an entrepreneurial endeavor, first money in, whether it's your dad's cancer, whether your child is sick. Angel Link is a payment platform marketplace, taking donations for you to, solve humanity's biggest issues.
Thank you. That was such a comprehensive answer to that, and you're certainly working hard to empower plenty of people. Fantastic.
And I'll say one more thing, Clive. We also put our money where our mouth is. We set up a foundation. Because we're in the donation space, all of these are small gifts, usually under $100 from your own friends and family that are supporting you, whether it's to start that bakery or whether it's because your daughter has cancer. And we set up a foundation called the Angel Link Community Foundation, and that's a 501c3. And we are also doing matching. So we have generous donors that can donate directly to our fundraisers. So it's a unique ecosystem using crowdfunding, I think, for the highest good for people to help each other.
Awesome. This is fantastic, Gary. Thank you for joining us. Keep up with great work, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I really
you.
enjoyed it.
All right, so
Thank you.
next we got Jeffrey McGannis, is the co-founder of CrowdCreate, a leading marketing agency that helps businesses grow by leveraging disruptive technologies and the latest marketing strategies. Successfully funded over $250 million across 500 plus projects. Jeffrey also the founder of ChargeTech, acquired by Family Office, where he bootstrapped the company in his garage and grew it to a multi-million-dollar profitable global enterprise. It was one of the largest phone charging stations and portable power companies at the time, with clients including Google, Toyota, NASA, and T-Mobile. Jeffrey's presentation today is going to be about how to raise capital from investors using crowdfunding. Jeffrey, good seeing you. I see you here. Welcome. And are you able to, you're mute. Let me ask you to unmute. Perfect.
Awesome. How's everyone doing today? I'm pumped
Doing
up and
fantastic.
excited to literally share the secrets on what we've been doing here at CrowdCreate over the last 8 years, raising $250 million across 600 plus projects. Just from the audience, I'd love to see what questions do you have and what do you want to hear in this presentation? And literally, I will give you an unfiltered secrets behind the scenes, everything that we've learned from working with billion-dollar brands all the way to startups from beginning to end. So if people can put in the chat here specifically what you want to learn, hear about, hopefully I can meet your expectations and literally share just kind of behind the scenes of it all. So a quick introduction. We are CrowdCreate. We started in 2014. I had a company before this that I started. I bootstrapped it in my own garage. I was solo founder. It started with less than $10,000. I did everything wrong in the initial stages, and then I had a successful exit to a private family office that acquired it 5 years ago. And so just some background about the agency. This was started in 2014. And I'll share with you the kind of story behind it. And so we've worked with both your billion-dollar brands like the NFL, Lenovo, Animoca brands, Anchor, all the way to your fast-growing startups that are on what would be Shark Tank. People really creating products in their own garage where you don't have money. And so really crowdfunding is what we figured out to be one of the best ways to raise capital, because you don't need investors. You have these online communities where you can essentially raise capital. And we've learned a lot working alongside, family offices, private equity funds, VC funds, and whatnot. Some background about CrowdCreate and why you should trust us is specifically, not only are we an agency and advisory, but I'm also a LP in several of the top VC funds in the world, in the space, and also private equity funds. And so I'm both an investor, but also an operator. And I see both sides of it. Say, for example, if you've heard some of these names, Multicoin Capital, Tiger Global Multicoin Capital was once the most successful private venture fund of all time. Tiger Global is in the news and you hear about their funds. And so since I'm an LP, I get kind of a behind the scenes on what some of the fast growing startups are essentially doing in the industry. And we also host these global events where we have some of the top thought leaders across multiple industries share their insight. And we really use this as kind of a thought leader sounding board to just understand what's hot, what's going on. Interview the team behind Mr. Beast. We had on various billion-dollar fund managers on our podcast. So we're really here to educate you and to really just provide the secrets about how we did it. So here's a background about our crowdfunding history. We started in e-commerce crowdfunding, and since then we've touched all the major industries, including healthcare, crypto, real estate, gaming, and now going into AI and machine learning. And so I'm going to share with you kind of some of the lesson learned that we've kind of experienced over the years. So it all started in 2014 with 2 failed crowdfunding campaigns. And this is when you're just kind of figuring things out. And after these 2 failed crowdfunding campaigns in 2014, we figured out the model. This was my first big success. I raised $444,000 in 2014. And just, in mind, I would go to these angel investor pitch events before this. I'm based out here in California. We have Tech Coast Angels. We had these major venture capitalists, and I would pitch them. And I actually, I would do well, and I'd win the pitch competition, but I actually wouldn't raise any funds. And I realized there has to be a better way to just, getting the capital to be able to buy inventory when you're dealing with hardware products. So I launched a Kickstarter Indiegogo campaign, and the first campaign was $444,000 raised, and it's incredible because this money hits your bank account. And so for me, first time entrepreneur in his 20s, kind of learning how to do things, I couldn't believe it. And that really was the start of the first company that I started, which was Charge Tech. And so the secrets behind this campaign at the time was PR. And so PR, we were featured in CNET, we were featured in 9to5 Mac, Stack Social, Petapixel, Geek Dad, all of these technology, gadget, early adopter enthusiasts that had the discretionary income to buy our product on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. So what we learned, or what I learned after the first 2 failed campaigns, is to, one, understand where your audience sits, have a really, really interesting product that I actually did a partnership with the factory that helped me develop this. And then I did cold outreach to get it in front of the press. And so back then in 2014, 2015, it really was about these blogs, right? That is who had hundreds of thousands to millions of eyeballs kind of looking at these campaigns. And so what happens when you have one successful campaign? We'll do it again. And so this is the next project. We raised $1 million for the same portable power outlet, but now even stronger. And what we did here was to listen and cultivate with your community. So I think the initial campaign had a couple hundred backers. Now we had 3,400 backers. Once you found a formula in terms of crowdfunding, repeat it over and over and over again. And that's how you essentially grow and how you do things. And so this campaign did really well, $1 million, in 2016. And Charge Tech was really born in terms of us growing the business. And it's really incredible when you're dealing with hardware tech to have this money up front is just, the funding that you essentially need. And so if there's any questions from the audience too, feel free to put it in the chat. Happy to, answer them in the middle of this. I really want to make this as engaging as possible for everybody that's out there. Okay, so during this time, I figured out a way how to do crowdfunding. And that's why I started an agency, which is CrowdCreate. And so I have a lot of fun working with entrepreneurs, with founders, trying to figure out these fundraising mechanisms. Fast forward to today, I'm actually working with private equity funds now and even, preferred partner with Start Engine and some of the largest crowdfunding websites and platforms out there, sharing with them what the marketing strategies and secrets are in 2023 and on how to do things. And once you have that formula, you nail it and you scale it, right? And so, this was back in 2015, 2016. We launched over 30 plus Kickstarter Indiegogo campaigns alongside even billion-dollar companies. Lenovo was approaching us, Anchor was approaching us, and literally saying, can you launch our crowdfunding campaign? And so we started a crowdfunding agency helping these projects. And so this is just a number of them, from robotics to healthcare to lifestyle to different wearable projects and whatnot. And so now I'm going to share here one of the case studies, which is Anchor. And this is a tech company. What we did was we connected them with an influencer for a robotic vacuum. And specifically, this robotic vacuum was new at the time. And so she was a mommy blogger, and she was a mom of 3, and she was very busy. And she didn't have time to vacuum the floors. And so what she specifically did was make an organic post, and ended up selling like $100,000, and the ROI was phenomenal for this. So the secret here was influencer marketing to use these things. And then Stuart, great question here. The venture capital community historically and statistically every year only invests 1% of all its money in Black and African American startups. What has been your company's track record to stop this financial discrimination? Phenomenal. So what we've done at CrowdCreate is create communities to uplift and empower, the Black and African American startup communities. For example, if you go to the CrowdCreate website, we've actually curated a list of the top Black VC founders and also investors that are empowering these communities. I myself am also an Opportunity Zone investor. And so in terms of opportunity zones, what we've done with opportunity zones is also go into communities, support them. We have thought leadership panels about different communities across the world, even empowering. I myself as a minority, we have it in different areas, specifically for women, for people of color, for people that are underserved. And that's the whole idea of crowdfunding, is that, it was traditionally an underserved market. I was a first-time founder. Nobody really gave me a chance as in terms of a VC and angel investor. And essentially what you can do is take it to the crowd and getting people to get excited. And so Stuart, great question. Actually would love for you, and if you are excited about this, to come be a community host and really help build the community around your local, area and whatever it may be. So we host these masterminds. And this is the secret for us is of crowdfunding as well, too, is that if we're trying to raise money for a real estate fund, if we're trying to raise money for a cookie company, if we're trying to raise money for a crypto project, we would go ahead and reach out to people that are well respected in the community, ask them to be a speaker, and have them share and promote it to their audience, and then build a community. And then from there, we constantly launch, project after project. And so one of the other secrets that we used in the early days, and it still actually works today, Tesla, Robinhood, and Coinbase NFT, they do what's called viral giveaways. And this is where you refer a friend and you get points and you get giveaways and whatnot based off of the referral. So I don't know if you've heard of what would be the Tesla Roadster. So the Tesla Roadster, there's actually people out there and that have earned free Roadsters from sharing their unique Tesla coupon code or just referral code. And this works phenomenal. And I can tell you, we've gotten tens of thousands of email addresses based off of this initial crowdfund of just capturing people's information. And this kind of goes back to our crowdfunding history. You'll notice that there is a trend across the strategy and the mechanisms that we're using here. And specifically, if you are a pre-seed startup, all the way to a private equity fund, we've worked with both and currently are working with both. The mechanisms are essentially the same. Number one, you have to build a community. So Dion Crutchfield, thanks for asking. How does CrowdCreate works with pre-seed startups looking to raise? So if you have an AI project, and maybe if you can share what specifically your project is, you have to tap into that niche community. And then from your niche community, it's, you know, the first person, the second person, the third person, the 10th person, the 20th person, the 100th person. And ultimately, at the end of the day, do good work, have a really good project, let people sign up to your email list, and the rest will essentially take care of itself. And so I'm actually going to share with you the strategy that we've developed here at the company. And so now just kind of going through this timeline, in 2017, we started working on crypto ICOs. Forbes actually named us the #1 growth marketing agency for ICOs during this time. And we also worked with Asia's fastest selling token sale of all time. It was $16 million in an hour. It was actually with the founder of a previous exchange. And so since then, we probably worked on another 100+ companies that were crypto, NFTs, ICOs, and whatnot. And do you want to know the secret of running a very successful ICO or even NFT launch and whatnot? Is influencer marketing. During the time, we actually worked with the largest YouTube influencers of the time. And you can see here's actually an interview, and, you know, for better or for worse, his name is BitBoy Crypto. He was the largest crypto YouTuber at a time. And if he posted one single video about your project, it instantly skyrocketed, right? And then now, you know, you think about Elon Musk, which I'll share. And when he was talking about Dogecoin, right, he was like pumping the stock in the same way. And these are called influencers. And influencers could be for any niche, whether you're a mommy blogger, whether you're somebody in the community about cleaning, whether about its eco-friendly sustainability. Dion Crutchfield asked here, influencers in AI, influencers in machine learning. How do you get these influencers to want to talk about your brand? Jerry asked a great question here. How much do you have to pay the influencer? A lot of the times, zero. And if you want to learn the strategy about how we did it, is that you have to offer something of value to these influencers. We have access to Mr. Beast's influencer roster. We have access to Gary Vaynerchuk's roster. We have access to some of the biggest celebrities that are out there. Yes, we have paid them millions of dollars as well to these influencers, but we've also gotten a lot of free work done. And so I have a whole other presentation. If you want to learn about influencer marketing, you know, go ahead and follow us at CrowdCreate. We have a free newsletter, and we literally give away these secrets. And all of it is just to empower you and educate you. And hopefully you would not make the mistakes that we learned. So, you know, Jerry asked this great question. How much do you have to pay the influencer? This is literally the dashboard on how we manage influencers. A company would come to us and they would ask this question. Hey, I've got a couple $100,000. Please deploy it into influencers. We have a specific process on how we prospect, on we vet, we negotiate, and then we keep this all organized in production, published, in draft, where the money goes. And then we also, you know, on your behalf is try and figure out who are the best influencers for this. I literally did an hour-long presentation on this influencer marketing. It is very, very important to select the right influencers and not just get caught up in the fact that people have, you know, 1 million followers of all these comments, because those can be botted. So we created our own formula here in terms of how to find influencers. And so this is our CrowdCreate crowdfunding formula. And this is what, you know, after working with so many projects, we figured out what works. Number one, it starts with strategy. Before you actually do anything, you need to figure out what your strategy is. And so if you can imagine Start Engine, Dealmaker, WeFunder, Republic, or private equity fundraising, or even pre-seed startups, they all have people that have been there, done that 10 times over, 100 times over. What you would do as a startup is come talk to us at CrowdCreate, and we will help you build that initial strategy. There is a formula for crowdfunding in your niche and industry that people have done over and over and over. And if you just follow that template and framework, which we can provide for you, it makes you the probability of you having a more successful raise that much more predictable. And so, as I mentioned, we have an expert advisory, we host events, we do investor funding, we have our own proprietary database, website and landing page, we do PR, influencer, social media. Jerry asked a great question. How can you hold the influencer accountable and commission-based? Jerry, we have worked with the commercial contracts lawyer for the Kardashians, for some of the biggest celebrities, and we have our own proprietary agreement. And it's actually 6 pages, and it lays out what the influencer is going to do, when they're going to do it, making sure that they follow the FTC and also SEC regulations, that they properly. And so influencer marketing is a completely separate 1 hour, 10 hour a topic in itself. As I mentioned, go ahead and go to our website, fill out that you're interested in influencer marketing, and we'll get all of those videos out to you. Diane Crutchfield, we're in stealth mode, but need to raise. What do you suggest for companies in our position? I'll be honest, when it comes to being in stealth mode, if you have a great idea, people aren't going to steal it. And even if you're Mark Zuckerberg and whatnot, most of these VC funds and angel investors, there's just 10,000. This is just in my opinion. There's 10,000 ideas that are out there. It really comes down to the team and the execution of it. And, I would say be so good that you have to ultimately, nobody else can compete with you. Epi, how am I doing on time?
You're doing great. You still got a few minutes left. So
okay, sounds good. And so, as I mentioned, we put together a panel of strategists, and these strategists are CEOs at some of the top companies. There's some of the top influencers that are out there, and they'd be able to have and even VCs and angel investors, Diane. And so they will actually give you the same feedback that I would be giving you, is to say like, hey, look, I'm a VC or angel investor. I've invested in, hundreds of deals, and here's my feedback and opinion. And that one single 30-minute, 1 hour long conversation can change the trajectory of your company. We also do outreach to these influencers and investors in terms of fundraising, and we figured out a formula. Here's just another case study. This was one of the most successful gaming crypto projects of all time. We were fortunate enough to work with them and kind of help them where we could. Jam City is a $1 billion gaming company. We helped them on their NFT launch and worked with hundreds of influencers. And so kind of going back to that timeline, in 2020, we started working with equity crowdfunding. That would be your start engines or WeFunders, Seed Invest. And then you want to know what, in our opinion, the secret behind those platforms is paid ads and influencers. And if you look at Start Engine themselves, they brought on Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary. Start Engine is I think they raised 19 million for their own platform. And then you look at what's the record-breaking equity crowdfunding campaign I know of is Miso Robotics. They did a lot of paid ads. You think about it like a marketing funnel, and then you essentially just drive conversions over and over and over, hitting that messaging. But happy to chat with anybody after this in terms of what we see if you're doing an equity crowdfunding campaign. But what we see it is really paid ads and influencers right now. 2021, we started working on crypto NFTs, and this was the height of after COVID, after the markets were just ripping. And so we had the CEO of Solana speak, we had these VC investors, we had angel investors, we had various people from all over the world attend our conference about NFTs. And we became the global thought leader when it came to NFTs because we hosted our own events based on this. And, during this time, what was the marketing secret? Well, it was Elon Musk talking about Doge. It was these influencers. It was having Steph Curry, Snoop Dogg, Draymond Green, DJ Khaled using these Bored Apes and turning them into your profile picture on Twitter. And so, fast forward to today, what are we working on? Actually, we're helping a lot of, private equity funds now raise capital, and even some of the most successful private equity funds and VC funds are having a hard time raising capital. There is a method to raising capital if you are, even $1 billion fund. I go to these investor conferences, I sit there, And I actually talk to other billion-dollar investment funds and say, what are the mechanisms that you're doing? At the end of the day, it's asking for referrals from people that you already know. Number two is sharing your unique strategy and offering and how you plan on, just there's and talks of an ongoing recession that are going on. And essentially, you just want to educate. That's a whole other conversation in itself, but I just wanted to wrap things up and say thank you, and always happy to help and chat with anybody here about how they can crowdfund.
Jeff, actually, I was looking from the other time, and we were a bit late here, but you took a lot of questions here, so it was great presentation, and truly looking forward to have you again to one of our next events we do on crowdfunding.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Epi. Thanks, everyone.
Fantastic. Great. So we'll move to the last speaker. His name is Nicholas Contreras. He's the founder and CEO of Vaki Global crowdfunding platform, a dual degree engineer with qualification in both electronics engineering and industrial engineering. His lifelong dream is to witness the country of Colombia where equal opportunity exists for everyone, and he has dedicated his career to working on projects aimed at narrowing the inequality gap in the country. In addition to his engineering background, he's also a software architect, entrepreneur, and activist. He channels his efforts into developing products that empower citizens with decision-making and economic capabilities. His presentation is about revolutionizing charity, the rise of a crowdfunding in Latin America. I was really keen to have you here, Nicholas, especially in Latin America in crowdfunding space. So looking forward to your presentation. Are you able to share the screen? I'll ask you to unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Now
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Epi, for having me, for this invitation. Thank you all for being here. It's great to tell this story about what we saw in Latin America since the beginning of Vaki and the beginning of crowdfunding. So, and why we are calling this a revolution of charity. We are focusing this presentation, and Vaki is focused on non-financial crowdfundings. This is rewards and donation crowdfunding. And we are going to talk about the rise of these types of crowdfunding. So first, when you say the word crowdfunding in Latin America, the faces you start to see is like this. Everyone is a little confused about the term. That's a word in English. It's not an easy to translate word. We need to try to use two words in Spanish to translate it. So it's difficult to adapt to the term crowdfunding. So first, let me introduce myself. I'm Nicolas Contreras, as Epi said, and with my co-founder, Haisa, we founded Vaki in 2016. So let me go a quick brief about what is crowdfunding and what we saw, or how we see the crowdfunding. And the crowdfunding is not new. It started, as many of you may know, a long time ago. The first reward-based crowdfunding campaign that we have on records in history, it was Alexander Pope, this young poet in London, wanted to translate the Iliad from Homer to English, but he didn't have the resources. So he started a campaign asking for 2 gold coins to the people in London, and in exchange, they will be in a list of in the list of backers of the Iliad in English. And to these days, everyone that gave 2 coins are on the main book in the English version. Then we have Mozart in Vienna trying to fund their concertos in this city. He didn't have the resources, but he wanted to play in Vienna. So he started asking his fans to what if they pay in front of the concert on a cheap price, and he can start building the concert to start the tour. And this is the crowdfunding of Mozart. Or a closest one to us, the New York Statue of Liberty. When the French government give this gift to the US government, they give the statue, but they didn't give the base. So the New Yorker says, "Oh, the statue is coming. Where are we gonna put it?" So Joseph Pulitzer, a journalist, in his media New York newspaper, he started a campaign asking for 1 cent for the people in New York. During 5 months of this campaign, the New Yorkers can fund the base of where the Statue of Liberty is now. This was the first time the media gets involved in a campaign, and it went the first massive viral crowdfunding campaign in history. Then we get the internet, and a band called Marilyn in London, in the UK, have a lot of fans in the US, and they wanted to go to tour to the US, but they didn't have many fans in the UK, and they didn't have many sponsors in the UK to start this tour. So they said, what if we give our album signed and a ticket to our concert to our fans in the US? And this is the first known crowdfunding campaign on the internet. The US fans funded the Marilyn tour. They went from the UK to United States to perform. After that, the first platform we have noticed is Artist Share. It was a brand label, a record label for musicians that had a problem in common, that what the independent musicians, how they can fund their projects. So they start the first known crowdfunding platform as we know as we know today. After that, we see Indiegogo in 2008, Kickstarter in 2009. We all know very well these campaigns. Then GoFundMe in 2010. Then 2 years after, some platforms start coming to Latin America. There were first 4 platforms. Brazil start big. And then 4 years later, we see many platforms in Latin America, but our market was so small compared to the US. And why was that? Why Latin America can't make the crowdfunding as the US or Europe was doing with these platforms? What was happening to us? What was missing to us? Instead, we saw the word crowdfunding, as we said in the beginning, it was a limitation, but it had to be something else. So we thought, and we start thinking, we are different. We come from a different culture. We come from a different history. We are a community people. We build from the nature. Maybe in the US or northern latitudes, there is the money used for good, or my power used for good. Yes, like the US, we see they get involved in many world problems. They give money because they're like they think they need to save the world. Sometimes they're doing it, but the Latin America people, we don't see that. So we were not involved on the campaigns that we're asking for, pledging for some charity, for supporting, because we can't find these people that with money feel fulfilled. For us to feel fulfilled, we need to be part of the project. We need to be part of the history of what was making, and not only the money that they need to raise and the money I'm giving to it. So we read this definition of Josephine Delmans, a journalist in Germany, that says crowdfunding is not about raising money. It's making things happen with a community of people who believe in something. Normal people, not rich people with a lot of power, just people like you and me. This quote was made like in 2012, 13, but when we read it, we connect the dots with the Latin America. And we said, this is Latin America. This is the crowdfunding for Latin America. Latin America is not asking for money. Latin America is asking to join together. Of course, we need money to make the cause, but the Latin American people is asking how the kid is going. If we need to fund treatment in the US, a very expensive treatment for a sick kid, maybe in some latitudes they give money and they feel fulfilled. I help that kid. But in Latin America, no, we give money, but we're still asking how the kid's going. Where is the kid? If they're going to Boston in December, maybe it's cold. They need to get a jacket. That's how the backers in Latin America feel supporting a campaign. So we start making that, and we need to change the term. Remember the cow? We need to back to the beginning. What was Mozart doing? What was Alexander Pope doing? They're joining the people together. So we start changing this face to a little cow. And what is a little cow in Latin America? As the Real Academy of the Spanish Language definition, to make a cow or to make a little cow is to make a voluntary financial contribution for several people for a common purpose. We said in Colombia and many countries in Latin America, we said hacer una vaca, or to do a cow, when you are collecting money among friends. Let's do a cow to buy the drinks for tonight. Let's do a cow to pay the gift for our grandma. So we said that's the term, that's crowdfunding. So in 2017, this was our first viral campaign. The Humberto de la Calle, it was the chief negotiator of the peace process in Colombia. Colombia has the longest armed conflict in the region, 60 years fighting a guerrilla, and we signed the peace. And Humberto de la Calle signed it. He was the leader of it. So he said, we're going to the presidency in 2018. But we were in a very conflict elections against two. So all the people need to vote for one because they don't want the other ones to win. So Humberto got too few votes. So the government will not, he didn't reach the minimum votes. So the government can pay back what he invested. So he ended up with a huge debt to their banks. And how the press said it, they made a vaca to collect the money that Humberto has in debt. They didn't tell they're making a crowdfunding campaign to help Humberto. They don't say they're getting donations for Humberto. No, they said they're doing a cow. So in 2 days, Humberto collected this is $167,000 on today's dollar, but back then it was like more than $200,000 in 2 days. This was the fastest crowdfunding campaign in Latin America for that time, and they did it because they joined, because they understood the term, because they understood what they're doing, and they feel part of the project. They come together to help Humberto as an act of activism. They didn't make a charity to Humberto. They were making a statement to the people in Colombia that said, Humberto signed the peace. We didn't vote for him, but he didn't deserve the debt. And we start moving that term. So in 2019, one major journal, 30 years old journal in Colombia, said because of a cut of budget on our channel, that is a government channel, we need to get off air. This journal was started to be seen as an anti-government journal, as an independent press, and the government was the primary funder of that channel. So they cut the budget, the journal went off the air. But before that, in Twitter, they start saying, hey, do a Vaki. Why you don't do a Vaki? Let's do a Vaki. So they did a Vaki, and they collected what they need to start to continue on air. So that 30th of November, that it was supposed to be the last day of Noticias Uno in Colombia, it was the beginning of the real independent press in Colombia. Today, they're almost collected $1 million, making the biggest crowdfunding campaign in LATAM history. And the terms start to moving all over around. In Twitter, when someone has a problem, the people start saying, hey, let's do a Vaki, do a Vaki. The press adapted. So the title of the news is really short. They making a Vaki for this. This candidate make a Vaki to do this. Some ex-guerrilla in a rural region in Colombia is making a Vaki for. So the people understand that they're not making money. They're not just giving money. Vaki is about collecting money, of course, but it's more than that. It's to making part of the project. And we start moving forward to different brands, to to receive in this term and in this brand, in making a Vaki, different types of projects. So Vaki Starter, for example, for creators, entrepreneurs, pre-launch of products, Vaki Social for emergencies, medical needs, donations to charity, Vaki Gifts to collect the money, the honey fund, for example, the honeymoon fund, for example, for a couples, for a marriage, for a birthday, or Vaki Fund to just collect money among friends, as we started to make a vaca with the friends. So there is Vaki Fund. And there's a lot more coming. There's Vaki Politics. This year, we finished our third elections in Colombia, funding politicians in Vaki, and is the future for us of the politics in the region. This is the way we can have real independent governments, real governments that don't need to pay back to someone or to some funder, big company or a millionaire in our countries. So for the last, I want to invite you to join this revolution in Latin America. Let's convert the charity into activism. Join the Vakis, support our region. There's a lot of people, a lot of projects that should be supported. So glad to be here and get involved in the world's crowdfunding to show you how Latin America is doing it. So thank you very much.
Great way to end the presentation, Nicholas, and congratulations for bringing this thing to this far. I understand, I know how hard it is to educate the market, and so you're doing a fantastic job, and even like taking the term and make it localize it and understand it well, so that way it can be spread and can be scalable. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Clive, do we have any questions for Nicholas?
Hi, Nicholas. No questions came through, but Nicholas, I was just wondering, your platform is for donations and rewards. Is there equity crowdfunding in Colombia?
Yes, there is one platform that started with equity crowdfunding. It came from our Bolsa de Valores, the house that invests in stocks. They do a digital platform to invest in companies on equity crowdfunding, but didn't work well. So they pivot to debt crowdfunding. So now they're fundraising for debt. The regulation in Colombia started really strong. Some people said it was to benefit the company that is going to make the platform, and that's why 6 years after the regulation, there's only one platform for that. This year, a second platform came, but on the debt side, on debt crowdfunding.
Okay, well, opportunities for growth there. Thank you. Thanks, Nicholas.
Great. Nicholas, thank you very much for joining us, and looking forward to have you again in the near future. Keep us posted on the development in the crowdfunding space in Latin America. I'm very, very interested in the space, especially that you're also now focused on the politics, because I think that can change a lot, the whole campaigning for the right politicians to coming into play. And with that, I'd like to thank all of you for taking part in this crowd session in the Crowdfunding Day. Join us next on November 16th at 5 p.m. Central European Time, where we will be talking about Embrace the Future When Humans Meet AI, next generation of crowdsourcing and collective intelligence. We got some really good high-level speakers there. Look out for events at the crowdsourcingweek.com/events page. Also, if you're interested in joining Bold Words, just type yes in the chat below, and our team will reach out to you directly. Thank you again for joining us. Hope to see you all next time. Have a great evening, morning, wherever you are, and be bold always. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.